Good evening, friends, and a very warm welcome from all of us at RIYΑZ. Just a bit of a backstory before I begin talking to you about my present exhibition here. I actually started talking about practice, showing it, documenting it in the middle of 90s when I brought out a book called Faces of Indian Art, which was about documenting studio practices. Nimai Ghosh then shot 52 artists across 50 years, and this went into the making of a book. So RIYAZ today talks about practice, the practice of artists, the various issues that concern them. Various things go into the making of this exhibition, and not only are the mediums very different. We have textiles, we have ceramics, we have canvases, ceramics, as I said, and terracotta as well. We have textiles in different forms. Apart from that, what is important is the issues, and when you look at the images, you will understand that they all come from very different places. Next to me is K.G. Subramanian's work. Though he is no more, he continues to loom large, as an influence in the lives of artists and art lovers. Says he, "I doodle constantly based on the images I see and their transformations, their mental extensions and changes of identity. I want my painting to be as quick and direct as my doodles. The final stages of most paintings try to have this spontaneous approach. They often alter, even reverse the original logic. In the way I do reverse paintings, all changes pertain to the early stages where I use watercolors." So here we have K.G. Subramanian's works, and move to Amit Ambalal next. Amit Ambalal's studio is in Ahmedabad, and his painting has a lot to do with humor, with satire, and geometry, in the sense that the way these images are balanced, it's almost like a choreographed composition. So we have here Amit Ambalal, whose studio actually houses a garden, and he has to entertain these creatures and sometimes scare them off so that he can work in peace. We move towards the work of Riyaz over here. Now, this is a spectacular work, as you can see. It's called Salt and Pepper, after Nandalal Bose, and is conceived as an image that draws upon the work of memory and celebrates the political act of moving on and carrying on. The gesture of walking represents the forward force of freedom, which resonates with many iconic and resurgent moments in India's search for identity, struggles for independence, and expressions of dissent. Walking was a symbolic act, an evocative metaphor that reimagined the destiny of the people by way of defiance and disobedience. So this is the work of Riyaz. We move next to Madhvi Parekh, another very favorite artist of mine with whom I've had the pleasure of working now for many years. Madhvi again talks about memory, and memory has a very important part to play, because here we are documenting memory, we are documenting art practices, because how else to remember artists, rather than, this is one way of documenting their work, showing how they worked. Madhvi comes from a village called Sanjaya, and she says that while memory plays a very important part in her thought process, in the way she paints, equally fantasy plays a very important role. So all these, all these images that are straight out of fantasy, a world that exists in the artist's mind. And she creates all these very strange figures of animals and people, and yeah, there are these strange tales that she tells us. Interestingly, as we move to Jayashree Barman, this is another artist also talking about myths, also deeply influenced by the mythical universe that she draws from. Her goddesses, she says, are contemporary figures. They are people, they are women who have feelings, who emote. Jayashree feels very strongly about environment, and in her paintings, in this beautiful painting, for instance, we have flora, fauna, we have swans kind of floating by in this very strange, beautiful world where there is coexistence. There is the goddess coexisting with the animal world and the world of birds. We move next to the world of Riyaz. Riyaz says, my painting is a journey, a process that I enjoy. The making texture, spontaneous approach, covering and uncovering of colors, making a decision to bring a delicate balance and juxtaposition of the opposites. These are deliberately composed. I want it to be reinterpretive, incorporated into the experience and personal stories. We have in this exhibition, I've already spoken about the fact that we have different mediums here. We have terracotta. All these works are RIYAZ Badruddin's works. And the way he interprets, the way he uses terracotta actually is very interesting. The way he makes these images, gives it a tactile form. And then these paintings that he has made in these beautiful colors. We move here to the works of Vasco ex Vasco, who's made these works with Rajesh Soni and R. Vijay. He is an American artist based in Rajasthan. He lives in Udaipur most of the time. And these are regular people. These are people he meets. In fact, I've had the chance of meeting some of these young men in his studio, and he uses them, for his as models, and then paints over them, giving them a strange kind of reality, which is actually far away from what is really the case. So here you have this man, rowing this huge vessel, and beyond that, floating forms, figures. He says, informally, I call this set of 3 photographs the worker's escape. In reality, the 3 separate works: another man with a lock, the bamboo cutter, and in search of absconding dream. The first 2 images shot at my Varda studio and meticulously hand-colored by Rajesh Soni depict the sort of daily labor rural men endure on farms and in small villages throughout India. Yet, there is strength in both their bodies and character. Life has not defeated them. Rather, they embrace their duties with a masculine pride of spirit and responsibility that reflects in the good nature of their faces. So these 3 works, collaboration between Vasco, Soni, and R. Vijay. We next come to the work of Ranbir Kaleka, who happens also to be a very, very favorite artist of mine. If we can just move closer and take a closer look. Once again, the whole story of fantasies comes alive through Ranbir Kaleka's work, and different elements, different colors, different realities, different universes clash and collide. And there we have fantasy, we have the real world, and it's a fabulous space where fountains flow, and you have a gentle creature like that rabbit or even a swan or the butterflies coexisting with a cheetah or that lion and the cubs. A colorful, beautiful world that comes alive in Ranbir Kaleka's light boxes. So this is Ranbir Kaleka's work. We move from here to the work of Jagannath Panda. The cognitive being appears as a life force, he says, and responds to the landscape. Jagannath's work for many years has been about the environment. He lives in Gurgaon and he's been constantly plagued by the fact that human encroachment is happening almost on an hourly basis. We are moving into lands that belong to the to animals, to birds, and we have taken over that space, their space. So he says that it's an idea that transpires over deep observation of the opaque nature of migration and socio-political theatre. Additionally, this work stands for a wide breadth of knowledge, memory, myth, ecological disparities in a dichotomy of nature, or notions of urban and rural cultures. So this is Jagannath Panda's work. Outside we have the work of Harshavardhana, but do we have Manu Parikh's work here somewhere on the right? Let's talk about Manu's work first. Manu Parikh is now in his 80s and works with more energy and vitality than ever before. Benares is a theme that often appears and reappears on his canvas, and his forms are extremely strong. There is a lot of vitality, like I just said, the organic forms that he uses, but also a kind of a raw, what can I say? As if it all is there before you. You can see the steeples of the temples. It's as if you can hear the temple bells ringing, and Benares comes alive. You see the moon rising, and the landscape is just so vivid. So this is Manu Parikh for you, where he says there is some kind of faith, an organic energy that sustains all people. It is individual faith, a faith in other beings. This kind of faith kept me more to my process and expression for as long as I have been painting. From here, I would like to move to a very favorite artist and photographer, Naveen Kishore. Naveen's work here is very, very important. In fact, this has been collected also in museums across the world. It's a very interesting story. We were talking about different issues, and here we are talking about transformation in a sense. Naveen is shooting Chapul Bhaduri, who is a Jatra artist, and his best performance is when he's performing in the role of the goddess. So Naveen actually has shot that transformation beautifully, sensitively, the way this aged old body becomes a beautiful woman, with her eyes coal-lined, her big bindi. There's a garland, around her, and she turns into this goddess. She's this performing goddess who we see before us. So that is the story of Naveen Kishore's performing the goddess. Now we are moving also to other mediums, especially in this room. It's interesting because we have the canvas behind us, and behind you, Dipali Daros and Daros, both working in the medium of ceramics. May I just hold one work for you to see so that you can get an idea that it is actually made of ceramics. Exquisite forms that Dipali has created in her studio in her medium. First, of course, I would like to talk to you about RIYAZ, who says that through my series, through my series of amphoras titled Witnessing Time, I intend to point your attention to the view that time is a continuous flow and that past, present and future cannot be considered as separate and distinct. So he talks about different forms that come alive in this body of work of Darroz. We move next to the work of Narayan Chandra Sinha. Narayan's work here is a series of masks. There are 90 masks that he has over here. And he says, I crafted 90 faces, some of them completely hollow, some of them clad with fur, soft and close to the form of nature, others made of leaves and foliage. Through this installation, I want to depict all the different ways we can experience ourselves. Thousands of emotions may often flit through our minds. Sometimes we feel hollow and empty, sometimes we feel complete. And this is what his installation is trying to convey to us. Behind us, I think we have covered the others, but we will now move to Onkun's work. Because Onkun's work is a work that is displayed here in the corner because it needed its own space and its own little universe, which we've given it, this shining orb, which is over here. He says, I experiment a lot with materials, soft materials as well as leather, plastic, wood, copper, brass, stainless steel, glass even. This is the architect in me learning about materials by working with them hands-on. Folding in nature teaches me frugality and doing more with less. I have found my ikigai and made the lifelong study of folding my way to share nature's message with my community. So that is the work of Onkun's. We are now moving towards the first room. And on the right, there is the work of Harshavardhana, who's a senior artist. And interestingly, when the other artists were giving their statements, Harsha said, I would like for people to come and experience the work. I don't want to explain anything to them. Let them understand it and interpret it in a way they wish to. But this is what he has created, and I think it's a very stunning painting. I will respect his wishes and not say anything about this work. On this side, we have the work of Bapi Das. Bapi is a very interesting artist from Calcutta. He has made these embroidered works his forte, and in his earlier career, he used to drive an auto rickshaw. So his stories often have to do with the road. I like to call it Song of the Road, because his perspective is that of a person seated in the driver's seat and driving down that road. So you have electrical poles and birds seated on the pole, a cycle is passing by. Here we have almost like a map of the city. There's another auto rickshaw that possibly crosses him. And exquisitely done. The entire work is embroidered beautifully. The details are minute and absolutely perfect. So this is the work of Bapi Das. Behind us is the work of Debashish Mukherjee. This is the work of Debashish Mukherjee, and again a very, very interesting work and an important contribution, I think, to this show. He talks about displacement, and he says that my inquiry revolves around our personal memories and a deeper sense of loss that have been created by them. I aim to distill the architecture of memories into visual metaphors through my body of work. In the recent past, I was engaged with an oral history project where I spoke to the people from various strata of society who have lost their homes. This non-linear process of interviewing these people and their stories left layered images in my mind, and in this work, the way I see it is it's almost unscripted script. If you look at it close up, it's like some kind of a script, a primitive script. But what is it? What are the alphabets? You know, so that is how. And right next to it we have displayed the work of Remain, again dealing with alphabets and memory, of course. Remain says, I seek to connect to the emotional world of my maternal heritage, exploring the relationship between the moving image and the sound of a letter. When the sun did not rise, the sun did not set. When there was neither dusk nor dawn, blissful eternity reigned undisturbed by measures of time. The ripples of thought did not penetrate its stillness. No form pervaded its infinite horizon. There was no concept, there was no wind, there was no notion of the past or the future. Time stood a silent witness of its own maturity. There was nothingness, yet there was everything. So this is the work of Remain. Right here, Deepa Parekh, who's showing for the very first time. I have been following her work for many years, and I'm so happy that we have these two stunning images, again embroidered, textile, made over a long period of time, like a tapestry. This work is done with raw silk and cotton thread. The work is about freedom of movement. The stitches flow with ease as the hand moves across the fabric, going forward and turning to create curves and a rhythm. The movement is not restricted by a deliberate pattern. Shapes and pattern form on their own as I stitch with different colored thread, responding to the textured surface of raw silk. So again, you know, when we are talking about Riyaz, the practice, a lot of it has to do with repeating yourself. This whole thing of bar jo hum bolte hain, you know, even with music, when you're practicing music and you're doing your riyaz, and the same notes are, part of your practice. This is what we see in her work too. Then we come to the work behind us of Purvai, another very, very favorite artist. Purvai's work, again, has a lot to say through her, in the way she uses the material and what she makes of it. So she says that the process of farming guides the forms that emerge on the fabric of the work. Involving artisans from Punjab became a way to expand on the interconnectedness of parallel spaces. The artisans' embroidery on organza gave birth to botanical abstractions interwoven with that of urban landscapes. The work is frozen in resin, retaining the imprint of each artisan and of my ancestor that is left in me. It's part of a series called Founding Roots. Rai, who's again a very, very senior artist, who has been practicing with the abstract style. And it's very interesting because when she's working, I've often had the pleasure of watching her in the studio. She comes from Delhi, old Delhi, and she is very, very much influenced by the various festivals that happen here, our Holi, Diwali festivals. And all these thoughts, perhaps, all these memories of even herself as a little girl go into the making of these works. She has a range of compositions, and there are these luminous surfaces that are completely stark, completely without any form, but luminous in the way she paints them. But here there is joy, there is celebration. And I feel that post-COVID, there is a kind of looking forward, there is a kind of hope and optimism. And Riyaz, kyunki ye jo hai kaam, it's that same thing of repeating the form again and again and again and again and making it into one whole explosion of colors and forms. Megha Joshi works with materials of rituals and in a strange sense, because these are forms that are shapeless, that are actually, while the material is that, you can see that it's incense sticks, beautifully handled and brought together. You can take a closer look at this. This is the material that she has made. I think it's very unique in the way she has created these forms, and the way she uses, like I said, the materials of Hindu religion and combines them sometimes with Islamic forms. So there is diversity for you, there is harmony for you, there is that kind of feeling that there should be harmony in the world. And thank you so very much. We will end with the works of Manisha Gera Baswani, which actually sums up for me the exhibition called RIYΑZ, because this is actually shots of the artists in their studio. And we have some artists here who are not with us anymore, like Anjum Singh, like Manjeet Bawa. But the other artists are all here and doing brilliantly well. Subodh Gupta, Ganesh Haloi, Rax Media, then of course Manisha here, Parekh. There we have Anita Dubey, Ramachandranji, Haloi, Ganesh Haloi in his Calcutta studio. So this is actually RIYAZ. Thank you very much to the viewers watching, and to MASH for recording this. Thank you so very much for taking it across to your audiences. From all of us at Iram, from Hush, Nancy, Tejal, Reha, thank you very, very much.